Hey, everybody, welcome to the second half of Truth Tuesdays. We went a little long on Lisa's channel.
We got a little spicy conversation over
I
there.
was arguing with my sister again, knucklehead.
Sometimes,
I do love
we
you
just have
very,
to.
very much, I love you
I
very much.
know. I love you too. I'm really grateful. Like that's one of the most amazing things in this whole, like my own awakening, and is the friendships that I've made, and
Yeah.
like I feel like I've grown so much as a person by the people that have come into my life, and you're one of those people. So I'm very grateful.
Here for the snacks.
Wait, I need a snack. I don't have a snack.
Hello, Gloria. Hey, everybody. Tom is here first. Good to see you, Tom. And Warrior was over on your channel.
Yeah, Benny, he's usually over here too.
Yeah, he tagged me in something with that I just did an interview on. The interview spiraled out. It was, man. I'll take a minute to tell you about the interview. So Order tags me in this thing. He's a member of our community, and on Twitter, and it's this crazy thing that I see that that they're this tribunal has been formed, um, and they're talking about they cited they like put out a warrant for President Trump, for Biden, for the
What?
WHO, for Macron, um, for Trudeau, Bill and Melinda Gates specifically, and the foundation.
Why
Um,
would Trump be in that?
well, he did. He started the stuff with Pfizer, and it's his
No, he
vaccine.
did not. No, it is
Mm,
not.
it's Trump's vaccine. Remember that was the whole thing.
No, it is not.
How are you going to say that? It was developed under him, and then literally Harris said, "I'm not going to
He
take the
was
vaccine, not if it's from Trump."
listening to, first of all, it was already, if you look at the patent for it,
Yeah, they
look at
had.
when it was
Yeah, they already
patented,
did that, but
it
he
had
wasn't.
already been developed,
Yes,
and
yes, but he
he
fast
was
tracked it,
listening
and
to
he was
his,
part of it being able to
yeah,
be.
and that saved millions of lives.
Oh my God!
And
Don't I?
he,
Oh my goodness. Okay, but it's still
oh my
he
goodness,
he green
shame
lighted
on
a lot
them.
of the things that were able to make them bypass certain tests and trials. That's a fact.
No,
It's called he fast tracked the vaccine.
no, it's not
Yeah,
true.
he did. Anyway, he's in it.
It
So, but they're going
exposed
after all
what they
these
were
people,
doing and saved
and
millions of
they
lives.
call out they call out the uh, all constitution, and that's the thing. It was a lot of legal stuff because they've issued warrants to like the president of Mexico, and they went to like to their
Under
consulates.
what authority?
That's that's the thing.
I'm
So
curious.
it's to me it's like crazy, but I think it's cool because it's regular people that are
I love
coming together,
that.
and then people that have
Yeah,
certain authorities, and they're empowering them to hold these elitists accountable, which I
because
think is
we are the people that have the power. It is we,
exactly,
the
and I think
people, that have the
that's the
power.
hugest message that I got from it. So I wanted to, and then they're flashing these judges, and one of the judges was someone that we know, and I was like, "What did you? Was that what?" And then so I was like talking in this thread, and it's all crazy legal stuff. So of course I would go to Greg, who is like,
Oh, good.
we're talking about our friendships, and I love Greg. I consider
Hmm.
Greg like a really good friend. Same with Joe. Um, so I brought Greg into the thread, and he was like, "Yeah, this is really really uh, interesting." And so I was like, so I was gonna so then I was gonna interview them, and
So did he come on with you?
well, that's the thing. I talked about it on World Blockchain Roundtable, which is on Thursdays at 11 Eastern, 10 Central. You can catch me and Lisa on there.
I'm gonna
On
miss this week, but I'm there usually. Typically,
okay,
I'm there.
that means I have to be there. Okay, even if I wake up
Yes,
sick
you
now, you're not
have
there.
to
I'm not
be
going to be there. I have to be there because you're not there. Okay.
right.
But so Greg was like, "Oh, this is pretty interesting. It's pretty cool." Oh yeah, I said at the end of Dragon Chain because we finished with extra time, and then I was like, "Oh man, yeah. Well, do you want to come on? I sent you that. I tagged you, the thing I sent you on Twitter." And then
Yes.
Joe got
Okay. I
really
remember you
mad at
talking
me, and
about
he
it.
like smacked my hand very hard. And then he apologized.
And Joe was talking about this guy that he wanted us to all act pithy like this guy. And so that's where I saw you acting so happy. I went and watched this old video because I was looking for that guy. I am going to so mess with Joe, just so you know.
Well, yeah, I know.
I'm going to.
He messaged me later. He's like, "I'm sorry, man. I wasn't trying to be." I was like, "It's not a big deal, man. I just thought we had
are
extra
going
time,
to
so we're talking."
respond in a quick manner, the way that Joe would like us to respond to pithy.
Yeah, you know, I'll be like, "Like, what do you think?" No.
We should totally do that to Joe the next
it would
time
be
we're
funny.
on. And just
But
be
anyway,
like,
so Greg's like,
we
"Hey,
have
I asked
decided no.
Greg, will you come on?" He was like, "Yeah." And I was thinking, oh, Greg's like going to be like this, guy that I'm like doing the interview. I'm like, legally, what is it? What does that mean, Greg? But Greg, how about this? And you get to get like a comment. What's the word when they're paid by
Like
a
a
news agency?
consultant or
Contributor.
a
They'll be like
contributor. Okay.
Fox News contributor, MSNBC contributor.
Yeah.
But he's like me, so he didn't tell me this, but he is like a fanboy of the people that we're interviewing.
Oh.
Which I didn't know. I mean, I just learned about the movement.
And did he have his vape?
No, but he's
he
like a little
gets
nervous.
sativa, and then he gets rocking.
He's a little nervous, right? And then he's
excited.
like, "Okay, just to let you know, kind of I'm not like geeking out or anything, but I've been following you guys for a really long time. I really like what you're doing. It's like really cool." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So he's like got this buttload of questions already, and he's like, "I just want to let you know this is really cool. I think this is great. When you did this, that was really awesome." And so
So
I'm
he
like
already
almost,
knew about it.
huh?
He knew about it.
He's been following them for like years. He's fans of them. This is like a whole new thing that they're going. But that's what started. That's why. So this is where I'm getting at. So the interview I had to break into two parts because this one guy, he was a fireman in Canada, got hurt really bad, and then the government screwed him. So and then during the gingivitis outbreak, he was trying to like get stuff done, and the government really was hitting him. So it was like we were talking about. He was a regular Joe who was the fireman. The system kicked him, so he got back up and he pushed back, and the system like punched the crap out of him. And now he's this activist who has like this huge following, and they've done all this like this stuff, and they've exposed so much in Canada that's like crazy totalitarian. Imagine if you want to run for president and you go down to the local office to file your paperwork, and they say, "No, we're not going to accept your paperwork," and you're like, "Why?" Like, we don't like
because
you.
it's you.
Yeah, it's you.
Yeah.
They're like, "Well, you go out in the hallway real quick and then come back in a minute." Okay, and then they lock the door. And what do you do? And that's literally what they've done to him. They like won't let him file certain paperwork. And I'm like, how do you work within the system when the system treats you like that? You're locked out of the system. Um, so basically, the whole first thing is just on the Justice for Canada movement, because that before we even got into the international stuff that they're doing, and with the people from and this is all Warrior tagged me in this, which started the whole thing, but the whole first interview is just on all the crazy stuff that happened during the trucker thing. And it was cool because the stories they were telling, these people were at the genesis of the trucker movement. Like they started this one movement that grew into the trucker movement. And then everything that happened during the trucker thing was like crazy. And they were telling like
they're saying
stories.
They started the trucker movement.
They started the Justice for Canada and the exposing the truth, and then that led to the trucker movement. They kind of what's the word? They got combined forces with the truckers, and then they grew into this huge protest.
They combined forces with the truckers.
Yeah, but you should check out the interview. It was cool, and like we're like 20 minutes in. I'm like, you know what? Let's not even talk about this other stuff yet. Let's just I'm gonna break this in two parts, and we'll do this, and then the second part we'll talk about the international thing. And in the international thing, like I read through what they were saying, and then I just asked some questions, and a lot of it I think is more more symbolic, which I said in the beginning I think is cool because it
Like
shows
a
really big
spiritual
power,
kind of
right?
thing,
Because
like
they said
asserting.
like we call upon because they're like we want Trump, we want Biden, and I always say Trump. I'm trying to get under your skin. Trump, Biden,
Because everyone,
Melinda
so part
Gates.
of him fast tracking it also gave everyone the choice
This is what
to
I'm
be
talking about. It's understand.
be
Yes, I know.
educated,
Yes, but
and
okay.
they
Let's
could
just
choose. It was
yeah.
not
That's
mandatory.
when he's on trial here. We'll hear we'll hear you. You can
Wow.
represent him. But so my point is
Mm.
like all of these people. It says to arrest them and to confine them. And I'm like, okay, so who's going to arrest them? Where are they going to confine them? What is their charge? And the charge is like a genocide, and there's other there are huge crazy things. But they're like it says and they're like telling them it's constitutional law enforcement. What is constitutional law enforcement? So that's what I'm like
Whose
trying to
constitution?
balance of grid.
The wait. Okay, is this talking about the Canadian part or the international part? I'm confused.
International. This is international.
An international constitution?
That's the thing. So they didn't know. They're like, well, I don't really know who. And then I thought immediately it
They
would be like
didn't know.
sheriffs. And then I was gonna ask Greg, like, and he's like, it would be in the United States, it would be like sheriffs. And they kept saying, we don't have a lot of the things here in Canada. We don't have constitutional law enforcement. We don't have, and I was like, most countries don't have a written constitution. Most
Oh,
countries don't. So they don't have like Britain doesn't have a written constitution. They have things that are like the articles of this or this, but it's
I
not an
thought
actual.
Britain has the Magna Carta, though,
Yeah, but they don't have a
right?
written constitution. They have a word of mouth constitution that they talk about, which is ridiculous. They literally
Or would
say
that
that.
have been in France?
They say that goes against our unwritten. That's what it's called, our unwritten constitution.
Our unwritten
Yeah,
constitution.
like there's an unwritten rule that you don't go into a restaurant and fart in someone's plate. That's an unwritten rule.
We
No one
could pick
says
a
it.
different one.
It's not on any signs, but you don't do
Okay.
it. Um, but they literally say. I remember because Boris Yeltsin called called the Queen to go before the Queen or something. It was something to do with Brexit, and someone their interview. This guy was interviewing people, and he goes, "This goes against the unwritten Constitution." And I was like, "Unwritten? That's funny." But then they were interviewing politicians, and the politicians were like, "This absolutely goes against our unwritten Constitution." And I'm like, "What?" And they actually, and then I asked a friend of mine who's a cop. He's a super cop over in London, and he's like, "Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, mate, we've got an unwritten Constitution that you have to follow." I was like, "No, you don't, you lummox." I was like, "You don't have to follow an unwritten anything because it's not written. That's literally why you have a contract or something in writing. They say, show me in
Well,
writing
but
what
you can
you're talking about."
hold, like, can't you do contracts by a handshake or a verbal contract? You can hold somebody to a
Yeah, but
verbal
that's a
contract in
contract.
some places.
Anything else, you say,
Wouldn't that be
show
the
me in
same
writing.
thing?
If you, I
Like a
mean,
verbal contract,
if
a
that
verbal
like if
constitution?
I go to your house, and this is true, if I go to your house and I call the police because that's my microphone,
Okay.
okay, and I that's my microphone, and the police come, they will say, "Where's your receipt for the microphone?"
Okay.
And then it's complete.
And then you say, she gave it to me.
No. And then where's your? Do you have the receipt for the microphone?
No.
Oh, exactly. And that happens all the time because people have to show it in writing. Um, you have to show some kind of proof that you own it, or that's where it's your word against my word. But it's in your house, and so, but it's up to the cop. The cop could take it, and you could be arrested for theft, and then have to go to court. And then you go for a judge, and like, here's, 2 years of videos of me using this microphone, and it would be you would win. But that's how the process works. But it's always the thing is, it's always you always say, show me in writing. All you have to do is produce anything. Even if there's a handwritten note from your neighbor that says, I sold Lisa this microphone. And that's enough because it's in
So are you
writing.
saying what they were doing with their international stuff doesn't have a leg to stand on?
No, I'm talking about a constitution. So then, Greg said, yeah, constitutional police would be like sheriffs or anyone that's elected to an office with authority. So
But
I'm
that's
like,
a
well, that doesn't.
written
Yeah, so
constitution.
that
Like,
doesn't really. I said that doesn't really make
because they
sense to
took
me.
an oath to the Constitution.
Right, to that constitution.
Yeah,
And then
that's
then I
amazing.
was like, well, where would they hold them? Would it be like in their county jail, or I mean, what? I'm like, how does this work? And there's like the leader of it, the head of the tribunal. He's a Swiss banker, or former Swiss banker, I think in Switzerland. And there's different people all in different countries that are part of this, and they have found all these people guilty, and they've issued a warrant. And so what is it? The
Under what authority? Under their when what?
Pascal
Who called them a
Najati.
tribunal? I'm
Pasquale
curious.
Najati is the head of it. The Natural and Common Law Tribunal for Public Health and Justice.
They formed this themselves.
Yeah, I'm going to try that maybe so I can bring it up real quick.
I'm curious. That's interesting.
It's super interesting. It was super, super interesting. Let me. I've been infected by you and started tweeting too much stuff. It's ridiculous, damn it. All right. If I look under mentions. Why don't I share it so that we're all doing this together? Okay.
So it's being held under Swedish courts. Warrior saying he sent the case to Sweden AG.
Swiss, not Sweden. Switzerland. Let me go to my profile. And then my replies.
Switzerland.
What is this? Oh, it's Jeff Garzik. I reply with a lot of gifts. That was funny. Hey, this cost Crypto Bitcoin Chris $3,000 for a headlight on his BMW. I have bought a BMW for $3,000. Look at this guy.
A whole
This
one.
dude makes me just. I understand why women hate him so much. He's such an
Is
over
that
the
a
top.
boy?
Yeah, he's the one that went and talked to Biden.
Oh.
Dylan Mulvaney. I understand why women hate him so much. He's such an over the top caricature of a girl, like a Monty Python skit show with a dude in a dress. He's so silly and fake, you can't take him seriously. If you're a woman, it's a little offensive. He's like the blackface of genders.
Annoying.
Yeah. Here we go. This is it.
Westwood says Swiss cheese, not Swedish fish.
Swedish fish. Which do I like more, Swedish fish or Swiss cheese? Completely.
So, what was your takeaway from it all?
I think it's interesting, but when I would try to really push it on the on what would happen, I don't think it really happened. But it's emergency
one
injunction.
Of those things like a hearing, but no teeth to it.
Sparta Justice has 100. Yeah, like everything else. Yeah. Sparta Justice has 100,000 followers. So he's a pretty big news guy. Emergency injunction and tribunal was ordered. Was served to the WHO and all criminal. And here's another word though. This would first hook me. It's not offensive or what's the word? That's not criminal. The other one.
Civil.
Yeah, this is something that's or whatever is less than when it comes to the government. This is a criminal defendant listed below to immediately cease and desist criminal conspiracy to commit war crimes, genocide, crimes against humanity, and to arrest and incarcerate these criminal defendants. So I was like, who's going to arrest them? Where are they going to incarcerate them? But all constitutional law enforcement officers worldwide are being served, starting with Interpol, which I don't see how they would be under constitutional law enforcement, but and constitutional law enforcement in every one of the 194 member nations. Which, like I said, there's nowhere near 194
Why
nations
are
that
they
have
serving the officers?
to arrest them, serving.
Is that how that works?
Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, if you form a tribunal and a citizen tribunal, and then you make a citizen's arrest, you could issue a warrant.
I
Um,
thought you issued the warrant for the person that's being arrested.
well, that's what this falls. So the member nations under the writs of mandamus. This is what I asked Greg about. He explained what a writ of mandamus is, ordering them to carry out their duties to arrest and incarcerate these criminal co-defendants for unlawful and genocidal acts in connection with the WHO pandemic preparedness response and changes to the international health regulations. The tribunal writs of mandamus, this is what it's under, is defined as the lawful term writ of mandamus refers to an order by a court to a lesser governmental official to perform an act required by law. Um, so I think this is what like a writ of mandamus is. You know how if you witness a car accident, you have to stop. You can't just drive by, or you could get in trouble. If you witness a crime and there's no government agency doing anything about it, you have to report that, or it could be negligence, or you could be not a co-conspirator, contributing to it, accessory kind of thing. So I think that's what the writ of mandamus is. It forces uh, these law enforcement officers to execute the order, which has perform any required by law, which has refused or neglected to do. So basically, you haven't arrested these people. This is saying you have to arrest them. You should have done your job. You should have arrested Cuomo. You didn't. He admitted to sexual assault. You didn't. Now we're ordering you to arrest him. My God, why don't New Yorkers learn from this shit? Fucking lazy assholes. Sorry, Cuomo gets under my skin. So perform the duty act required by law. He has refused, has refused to or neglected to. This type of court order is a remedy that may be sought if a governmental agency, public authority, or cooperation in service of the government fails or refuses to do its public or statutory duty. So basically, the people having the power are demanding that their constitutional law enforcement officers enforce the law. This has been ordered by the tribunal under Article 6 and Article 7, Crimes against Humanity and Genocide of the International Criminal Code. List of criminal defendants. The 2009 to 2023 lockstep vaccination general pandemic co-conspiracy, including and not limited to individually and collectively Bill and Melinda Gates individually and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the WHO, and officers, directors, employees, and agents. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, WHO Director General Stephen Fauci, the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, and officers and directors, employees, agents, Michael Bloomberg, David Rockefeller Jr., Warren Buffett, George Soros, Ted Turner, Oprah Winfrey,
A lot of
Rockefeller
these people are
Foundation
already
Global
gone.
Business Network, Peter Schwartz, chairman of GBN, convicted vaccination, genocidal, pandemic, and neural monitoring governmental executive defendants. Xi Jinping, Chinese Communist Party guy. Vladimirovich Putin, president of Russia. Donald Trump, 45th president of the United States. Joseph Biden, 46th
Shame
president
on
of the
them.
United States. Benjamin Netanyahu, prime minister of Israel. Boris Johnson, prime minister of UK. Matt Haddock, secretary of state of health. The Crown Corporation and all of its subsidiaries. Justin Trudeau, prime minister of Canada. Scott Morrison, prime minister of Australia. Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister of New Zealand, Prime Minister of Sweden, Minister of Health, Emmanuel Macron, President of France, Minister of France, Angela Merkel, and then other people. All of these people have been charged and they're supposed to be arrested. So I thought it was super interesting. And
By
the word
what court, though, and by what authority?
international court,
What
by the
international court?
authority of the tribunal
What
that was formed.
tribunal?
Yeah, and it's funny that they're the writ of mandamus is interesting to me because it's not like they're doing anything weird. They're saying we require that law enforcement do its job and enforce the law. They're basically making it official what I'm doing staring at the TV when the cops are talking about Cuomo. So I'm like, do your job and arrest him. And they've done it like a legal tribunal, and they've made it official. Hey guys, here's these crimes. Go do your job and arrest these people.
So they created a document and they had some kind of trial where they've had proof.
Right,
and then people have had an opportunity to defend themselves.
They issue the warrants, and then they serve them through their.
So there hasn't been the trial yet.
Well, they serve the warrants through their embassies. Like
Okay.
They would go to.
So they're anticipating having a trial. These people are being charged with it.
I believe so, yeah. And I'm like, what's the end result? And I was pushing him because I wanted him to say it, and he did say it. He's like, I think execution. I was like, my man, all right, that's yes. I think hang them high. These people have to be scared because they're not scared of us. And I mean, imagine if you could do whatever you want and you just had to make muffins. You would just make a bunch of muffins and do whatever you want. And whenever you're talking about money as a penalty, that's what it is.
So you said something about judges, but then you said international court. Why do we trust an international court, and who gave the international court authority?
It's the people. There are people who are just representatives of the country who are. It's like we always talk about, just like McAfee talks about, just taking a regular guy and say, hey, you're a jury duty. The judges, instead of jury duty, it's judge duty. They're like, hey, you need to weigh in on this. It's basically like a grand jury, but they call them judges instead of a grand jury. Because they've listened, they've and they've issued the warrants.
Huh.
But you're talking about all these other countries with like pomp and circumstance, so they have to call them honorable judges.
So how could they? Oh, because it's international, they can. Even though they're in Canada, they think they can go after like American,
right? Because it's international
or whatever.
Law. It's international law. They broke an international law, not like your country's law.
Where is the list of international laws?
I mean that they've charged them with genocide.
Yeah.
And it's that I read it in the thing. It's is it World?
No, not that they're charging them with, but where is our, like, that we all agreed to international laws? Where's the
that was, I believe,
the international laws that we've all agreed to?
I believe that was the whatchamacallit convention where we established international law and a code of conduct. Like
that's what I'm curious about.
Like
what when was that established?
Slavery, trafficking, murder.
Who organized that? Because
like
that
if you go out on a boat, if you go out 35 miles,
that would be the authority that they're operating under.
If we get on a boat and we go out 35 miles, from Corpus Christi, we can smoke pot and do drugs and whatever, but it can't kill you. We can eat unpasteurized cheese. All these things we can't do if we're like 3 miles closer in the United States. We could do it if we're in international waters, but international law, like you can't, no matter where you are, you can't kill someone. It's not legal. and that's where. But there's countries that violate that all the time because it's a law,
Well, I
which
hope
is just a
they
thought.
are going to stream the trials. That would be interesting to see
Yeah, that would be very.
um,
It's super.
if that happens.
It's
But
super
I think
interesting, but
most
like the stuff, the Canadian
people are
stuff,
dead, and I think they're
that
wrong on Trump.
that's things that they're doing in their own country. That was like kind of, I thought it was much more. It's not much more, but it was really really cool because
Hmm.
it's people standing up against their their government. They're actually moving forward with doing things. And plus, I was talking about all the like heroic Canadian people that I saw. Just people are like, oh, I've been in the Canadian military for 12 years and I'm resigning because of what's going on. I'm not going to be part of the government. And that was like, and cops, just tons of cops are like, I don't want to be. I'm not part of this. This is unconstitutional. I'm out. You know,
Westwood says, join
join
my
my
Patreon
Patreon.
for live
Live
stream.
trial. Yeah, the
Good
Geneva
idea.
Convention. Thank you, Clint. That is right. Um,
Oh, okay. So we can look into
anyone can
that.
form a
So
grand
the
jury.
Geneva Convention, we should look into that and see how
It's
that's
see
formed and who is.
that's an interesting thing, which we didn't used to be able to talk about. I don't even know if bringing this up is going to be okay, but the Nuremberg, we couldn't even say
You
that
probably can't
during
say it.
the gingivitis outbreak.
You
But
probably still can't.
Code of Medical Ethics for World War II, um, it's very, very, very precise. It's very, very spelled out really well, and they took a crap all over it. Um, and if you brought that up, that's another thing. Like in the Twitter files, if you brought up that word, um, and it really, people are so stupid. It's like it's that knee jerk reaction where everything's Hitler, everything's a Nazi, but that's what it's called, the Nuremberg Code, But it's
Right.
from that. It's like, oh my God, we never thought human beings would do these things. We didn't think we needed a law that said you can't fart in someone's plate in a restaurant. That's ridiculous. But we need a law for that now after we've seen what um, Mengele did. Um,
Hmm.
not C's. That's right. Relocated after, yeah. Well, there was a Project Paperclip.
Hmm. Operation Paperclip.
Yeah, they
Well,
all
not
came.
just that. Like I was reading in this book, Fruit from a Poisonous Tree, and they, at the beginning of this, it talks about um, all of these tests that they did on Americans after World War II.
Yeah,
They aerosolized um, infections, blew them in the coast of California. They did a big weather balloon full of infected mosquitoes and put it off the coast or over some state, and then released it to see how fast infection would spread.
yeah, I remember that.
There are all these other tests that they've been doing on Americans for years since World War II.
And when you tell people
It
that, they're
never
like,
ended.
"Oh, you're crazy, crazy." It's like,
Mm,
no, no, this is
no,
actually admitted to.
this never ended.
And
Yeah.
then people just do that glaze. Ah, like I have nothing I can't argue. You're right. I'm not gonna. I don't want to accept it. They just make that weird noise. It's like,
Because if you accept it, you have to take action with it. You have to do something about it. You have to protect your family. You have to get educated. You have to care. And so many people don't want to. They want to drink beer and watch football, and not educate their children, and not homeschool them, and not,
at the beginning of
eat
everything,
better,
one of the
not
most important things
do
was
the
this,
things.
wasn't it?
Hmm.
What
It's
is the
huge.
what was the first food that got attacked really and was being dumped out all over the country?
Milk.
What's that have a lot of?
Hmm.
I never thought of that. That's a connecting dot right there, isn't it?
And if you think about the reverse of this, they were putting that in everything right before World War II because they needed strong people for the war. They were putting it in beer. They were putting it in, that's why it started being in milk, because they knew it would build strong bones and muscles and make strong warriors. So they started putting it in everything. There was that in everything. I don't know if you can say vitamin D. I don't know. I guess we've been saying other things.
Mm-hmm.
But now for them to be like, oh, soy milk is so important.
Yeah.
Well, they're trying to weaken, and look what they've been doing to our military. Talk about weakening our military. I mean, to the point that they've turned them into transgender, and then
Did you know how many people
take away all of
the
our
military
and then
got
cut the
recruited
funding.
last year?
I don't know.
40,000.
That's all.
That's it.
I'm surprised it's even that many. My nephew and his best friend were going to go into it, and they were actually recruited to do like this intelligence something, like because they both got really high scores on their ASVAB or whatever, and they like got kind of the next step into it, and they were like, no thanks, it is some woke ass, you know what, and they were not doing it.
But okay, one of the biggest reasons to join the military that I saw was that there was the GI Bill. You serve your country, you get to travel. It's like 2 or 3 years. You get work experience. You get paid.
Yeah,
You're a kid. You get to, you know, try out. You know, if you most
don't have
likely
to
you can
worry
try out
about your
a job.
bills.
But
Yeah.
in the end, you can go to college and it's paid. You know, it's paid for.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to any college and it's paid for. You can't go to Yale or Harvard but you can go to any university
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be all right in the United States. And that was a big thing. But that was personal responsibility. I can earn this to go to college. I don't have people that didn't have to go join the military. They just had rich parents. But if you were just a regular person, anyone could go to college just by getting a higher education by doing that, or trade school or whatever by going
Right.
in the military. And it was a good option. But with everyone getting their college loans just wiped out, it's not what does it offer? What does the military offer other than you might die? Nothing, you know. And if you take away the fact of like serving your country because you're proud of it and you want to, there's no reason to do it. It's like, hey, you could do this easy job and make this much money, or you can make the same amount of money and work in shit. And you're like, well, that's a tough choice, and that's literally what they're handing people. They're like, hey, there's, a tough job where you don't have a lot of say so in your life, but you have, these other opportunities and you can see the world. And in the end, you gain more control over your life financially. Whereas if you're just you can stay at home and play video games, take out loans, and you'll have the same
I don't
thing.
think those are the only options anymore.
But
I don't think college is the only option anymore.
No, but it is for a lot of people, and it's pushed in society as what you
I
need
think
to do.
that our colleges have been just, they're so woke, and they've been infiltrated. Yeah. And I just don't think that that's, unless you're going to be a doctor or something where you need that training or certification.
Yeah, you're a nurse.
Most entrepreneur business people
EMT. There's so many
do
things
not need that.
Still
do not need to go to college. Yeah, you go to Votech, go apprentice somewhere, go learn how to code.
But also all of those things you have
to
pay for. So but you could still just kind of hang out in your parents' basement, play video games, and go to trade school, go to vocational school, go do that, but just take loans out and then get forgiven for the loans later. Versus going and signing up for 3 years and 2 years, going to Europe, going somewhere else, even if it's you never see any like action. It's still, you don't know where you're going to go. you're giving up a lot of. You're told where to go. You're told where to sleep. You're told when you're going to work. Um,
Right.
but in the end, you have this war chest that you can pick whatever school you want to go to. You don't have to worry about scholarships or doing anything like that. You can do it all on your own because of those 2 or 3 years that you put in. Plus, you have the experience. Um, you have the VA home loan. There's a lot of stuff that you get from it.
Yeah, I've heard
Um,
sometimes it's hard for people to transition out of that because they haven't learned to do those things on their own because they have been told where to eat or what they're going to eat, where to be, whatever. So then they have a hard time kind of transitioning to adulthood as well. So
I
I
think
think you can learn a lot
now,
from the
but
military,
now
but
I think that used to be that way. Growing up in that life, but
mhm,
I think especially in America, things are so flipped on their head that now
mm,
like people have been raised a certain way, and now going in the military would actually give people some structure. They would you would actually
yeah, I was
learn.
really hoping my middle son would go into it. I think
Be
it would have
told
been really
no.
good for him.
Have someone yell at you, but they've destroyed that. Where first
Yeah,
sergeants
yeah,
aren't
they
allowed to
don't do
yell
that
at you.
anymore.
There's so much.
Yeah,
It's like, dude, why? You know,
yeah,
it's like going in a Michelin 5-star restaurant. And you're like, hey, I manage a McDonald's. This is what we're gonna do here now. You're like, dude, it's not broke. Don't fix it. It is doing pretty well. You know, um, but now it's eventually the snake will turn and eat itself. You're talking about women and how they're coming back to like more traditional roles or just what they're called to physically. There's so many women in their 30s now that are upset because they want to have a family and like, well, you're 38, it's very dangerous, and they're like, what are you talking about? I can do whatever I want. No, I'm sorry, but you could, you could have complications. This could happen, that could happen. It's going to be tougher for you to conceive. And I've seen like a couple of videos in the past week, on this subject that these, young women are just like bawling their eyes out. It's like, hey, I was lied to. It's like, this is, you can't do whatever you want. There is still, there's the world will tell you no on certain
there are
things.
natural consequences on some
Yeah.
things. Yeah, interesting. Um, yeah, they're talking about in the chat, which I meant to talk about over on my channel. I guess there was a drone, U.S. drone. Maybe did we talk about it? The U.S. drone that was in the, maybe I just told my husband about it.
Did
There
not.
was a U.S. drone that was over the Black Sea, and a Russian plane dumped gas on it or fuel on it, and of course the Russians are saying that they were in their airspace. The U.S. says they're not. All this, and then they had to come and take out the drone. Is what I watched the press briefing about it, and supposedly it was taken out. But
Who took out the
um,
drone?
the U.S. said that they took out their own drone, which kind of didn't make a lot of sense.
You know,
Um,
why wouldn't
but
they just? I mean, did they lose control over it?
I don't know. It really didn't make a lot of sense in the press briefing because they were like, "Oh, are you saying it's a
A rogue drone.
Raptor M6?" And he's like, "I'm just comfortable saying it's an M6 or an M9 or something like that, or Reaper 9 or Reaper M9, something like that." Anyway, I guess it had some kind of capabilities on it, and he wasn't comfortable disclosing that. But it looks like they're trying to tee up for World War III. China is threatening Australia because Australia is queued up to purchase 5 nuclear submarines from us
Really?
over the next 10 years, but 3 older ones and then 2 newer ones, I guess, something like that. And China is nodding their finger and saying, "Don't you do that." So
Is this your way of
all
saying,
the pieces are
Sean?
in place.
You know, I know I've been really hitting you hard and being mean to you and yelling at you the past year,
I
but you're kind of
know.
right. Maybe things are moving in that direction.
Well, a
I
scare
think
event
you're
is
stupid
necessary.
and a
That's
moron, Sean, but
we all know that a scare event is necessary. That'll be part of it. That's the distraction.
there's going to
Um,
be something nuclear.
Fed now rolls out 320.
Who
Jesus's
screwed over
birthday.
Australia? Who screwed over Australia?
Which time? I mean, it was a prison colony originally.
No, about
They
6 months ago, Australia was supposed to buy nuclear submarines,
I don't know.
and I think it was us, but it may have been Britain. And
Wow.
they like Australia had them on order. The money's ready, or they even paid for them. And then Australia said, "Fuck you," and sold them. Or no, U.S. or Britain said, "Fuck you," and sold them to someone else. I forget who it was, but it was a huge middle finger to Australia, and a bigger middle finger because it was like, "Hey, China, we're bowing down to you and not giving Australia this need for their this
Yeah, and
means to defend
Project
themselves."
Bluebeam's supposed to roll out next week as well. Fake aliens.
If you guys in the
But
chat remember who it was, what country it was that screwed them and didn't let them buy the
what's the significance of Syria meeting with Putin today? I don't know the history on that.
of Syria?
Hmm. Why would they be meeting with Putin today?
So Putin's always
Is
been
that an oil
there.
deal?
Putin's always been big in Syria. That's who Trump, when Trump killed those Russian troops, it was in Syria. Syria, Libya. Damn it, geography. Damn it, geography. But and I've noticed now a lot of and there's so much about this war that just shows everyone the hypocrisy of Western countries. The fact that they talk about the Wagner Group and how it's terrible and evil, these mercenaries. We use literally there's Black Rock troops here. Fort Hood, the biggest military base in the world, they run the whole north part of Fort Hood. Um, they're all private, which is the word private is hilarious because you can have a private that you're paying $1,500 a month versus a Black Rock guy that you're paying probably 10 grand a month running a gate, to let people in and out and check IDs. It doesn't make fiscal sense, except that there's corruption. That you
I
you
was going to say,
have
except that 10% goes to the big guy.
you have tens of thousands of people painting rocks and just doing busy work that you could have run, this gate, but you have super high paid civilian contractors doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
It
Uh,
is crazy.
because Putin is the one with the brain. I don't know, man. But I see, I see Russia making alliances and partnerships, and I see the United States just fighting people and going to war, man. Um, I don't know. I don't know, but Ukraine, Ukraine scares me a little bit. It really does. It's because we're at this point now where it has to go. I think one way or the other. If you look at Russian people and Russian history, they are the most metal country there is. Uh, there's like crazy. Do you know about the Army of the Dead?
No.
Oh, that's a cool story.
I know the
Um,
Finnish people don't like them.
Finnish people, yeah. So they don't like Nazis more though. The Army of the Dead's a cool story. There's so these Nazis, so the Nazis want to break into to take Russia because Russia's the most important. It's like once Hitler got control of Russia, he would have unlimited resources, unlimited slave labor, unlimited land for his empire to go move out and live on. So Russia was like this super important thing, but there was this base, the entrance to Russia that the Nazis had to break through, and it was this palace that's like massively fortified, and they couldn't break through. They couldn't break through. They couldn't break through. They tried, and they kept getting just destroyed. And there were like it was like the Alamo, but they never lost. There were like 1,000 troops inside and maybe like a few hundred outside in these fortifications and trenches, and the Germans would just get shredded every time. They'd send like 10,000 against 1,000 and get shredded. And so they so so the Germans went, were using chemical warfare. So these Russians had not they Russians didn't have much in the way of gas masks, so they were very rudimentary and not very good. And obviously with Germany, like one of their big focuses was on science and using it in warfare and it was World War I so it wasn't the Nazis, it was the Kaiser. It wasn't the Nazis, it was the Kaiser. So YouTube, no Nazi talk. Anyway, they're trying to break through this. Maybe it was World War II. I don't know. Look up Army of the Dead. So anyway, they're trying to break through, and they hit him with this chlorine gas, which they shoot it in artillery shells into the facility and outside. And when it hits human skin, it turns from a chlorine vapor to hydrochloric acid, and you breathe it in, so it eats you from the inside and it eats your outside. So you turn into goo, and your face melts off and everything. It's horrific. So they hit them, and I swear I'm laughing. They kill there's only 1,000 people inside, and the ones outside, they go. There's this like 2 battalions or 3 battalions German forces move in, and it's disgusting and horrific. The scene they see. They have these great gas masks, so they're fine. And then these rotted corpse, dead guys start standing up because they're dying, and they're like their last breaths, but they're forcing themselves to get up just on pure
because they know they're dying anyway. Just did I lose you? Am I the only one here? Okay, well, I don't know the rest of the story, but it sounds horrible.
People don't want me to tell the story, but I'll tell you.
I was gonna say I don't know the rest of the story.
What part was I at?
They didn't want to. They were dying, but they were stood up.
Yeah, they're dying. So these like zombies, ghouls, like flesh dripping off, stand up and they're like, bleh, and they start shooting the Germans. The Germans freaked out, and they ran in horror of these like 100 troops that are like moving forward, and they like were shooting them, but they're already dead, basically. So they're shooting them 3 or 4 times. It doesn't matter. They can't feel anything. All their nerve endings have been burnt off. So they're shooting these zombies, and they're just moving forward, and trying to kill them there. And so all of the troops ran in horror, and it gave the Russians like enough time to move in like 2 battalions of reinforcements to fortify the fort. It's a crazy story. But getting back to what I was talking about, when it comes to like Ukraine, Russia, whenever they're going to lose, and this is not the military, this is the people. They burn their farms, they slit their livestock's throat, and then they leave. They scorch their own earth because they don't want to give. That's what they did, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
This
and Joe Biden does the reverse. He leaves all of our military equipment in Afghanistan.
Well, yeah, it's because you have to buy new. And you have to buy. It's like if you wanted, if your kid wants a new phone, but you won't buy it for them, they're like, "Oh man, my phone broke." Dang, Dad, I took care of it for so long. I was like,
too bad. If you can't prove that you can take care of it, then you don't get a new.
Yes, then I took care of it for like 2 years, but it's like, all right, fine. But this palace, this fort that had been like, standing, that finally was going to fall because they were hitting everything with it. So they blew the shit out of it and destroyed it. So there's no way that when they finally lost, that they could be used against them. And that's what Russia does, man. They're like, okay, if we're going to lose, then we're it's gonna lose. You're not gonna. We may not win, but you're not gonna win either. So that's. I think we're getting to the point where either we have peace, or it's like they're gonna. I think a destroyed Ukraine would be a win for Russia. You know, I think if which is really bad because it's the breadbasket for so much of Europe. Um, so I think,
I think
and
there's
we've
other
we've
things there. I have a
exposed it.
different belief.
We've
So.
exposed that they were about to have a peace treaty. They were gonna have peace. They were gonna work it out. It was done, and that
Most people in Ukraine even identified themselves as Russian, speak Russian. There was a natural blending of the cultures before all this proxy war kicked off.
so you're saying that Russia or Ukraine is like Russia's Canada.
Probably,
It's
maybe.
like
I don't
like
know.
like Canada's like USA light. It's
I
America's
don't know.
hat. It's kind of
I don't know
we
anymore.
didn't really used to have a border when I was a kid. It was it's like, oh, you coming over for lunch? Okay, good to have you.
I've
Uh,
never been to Canada. I don't know.
it's weird. I've only been to Canada, I think, twice, and I've never been.
Really?
Yeah, I've never been to. And that was the other side of the country. That was when my mom's best friend got married in Oregon, and then we went to Canada there. That side. So I'd never been to like Niagara Falls, which is weird because that's where like everybody goes. It's like going to Mexico if you're in Texas. That's or going to.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Hmm.
but I never went to Niagara Falls, which I thought was weird because I always wanted to go. It's like a cool place when you're a kid, which I guess would be like going to the Grand Canyon if you live in Nevada if you're a kid. Where
Or
do you?
Arizona.
Yeah, they wouldn't.
One of those.
Didn't you say something about the Grand Canyon or someone about there's like a bunch of gold underneath it?
Bix talks about that. Yeah.
What is that?
There's a huge amount of gold buried in the Grand Canyon. In fact, a lot of our national parks have been part of the reason our national parks were created was to hide resources from the people. So, like if you look at what was it Obama that took all that land in Utah to hide the coal from people in Utah. I don't know. There's something I was reading about that the other day. It's all going to be about energy in the future. So
there's something we could do a whole show on this. This is just a little. It's a weird thing. A weird thing that I one of my conspiracy things. If you look at like I love sci-fi, and in dystopian futures, corporations always kind of they've taken over. Like kind of like how things are now. It's all just run by corruption, but it just becomes formalized and like there's still government still like an important thing, and government could kill a corporation, but government couldn't kill like two or three if they got together and fought the government. And corporations have their own military and all, so we're pretty much there. But do you know about these underground cities there is in the U.S.?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's these huge underground storage facilities. There's what's called the craft caves,
Like
which
Cheyenne Mountain and under
no,
the Denver airport and
yeah, no, well, maybe that, but
no.
I'm talking about like Cheyenne Mountain is military. These
Yeah.
are like there's the craft caves. You know about those?
Oh no, I don't.
Well, there's government cheese.
Yes,
It's like a
I
joke,
do. I've had to eat it. Yeah.
We have I forget how many thousands and millions of tons of cheese that are the government owned that was it's stored underground in these massive like miles and miles of deep underground facilities. It's a cities of just cheese stocked hundreds of feet in the air. Massachusetts, type in craft caves or cheese caves, government cheese caves. You'll see all the stuff. I knew about that, and that's where the government had all this cheese that it was storing, and that's where government cheese came from because they had just massive, a bunch of cheese. like, and when it comes to like fluoride in the water, so that's something you could say the government cares. Protein, calcium, it gives food to its nourishment. Government cheese, that's you could make that argument for that. Um, but I knew about that, but I didn't know that there are these private underground cities that are called storage facilities that are owned by just corporations like Kraft Foods, Heinz, PepsiCo, Coca Cola. I mean, we're talking miles. So there's a lot of you can watch these like truckers. They just think it's cool, and they have like on their YouTube channels them driving into the ground. And I mean, these are 18 wheelers with the big trailers, and there's
I've seen like the airplanes underground, like it's
these are like maybe
huge.
these
Yeah,
are like
tunnels and
50, 75
yeah.
tractor trailer semi trucks driving around underground, and there's it looks like okay, if you look at like Cheyenne Mountain, if you're watching like Stargate or something, and what's this secret underground military nuclear facility, there's no difference between watching that and then seeing these food storage caves, and they're they're connected directly to rail lines for the food that they bring underground, and they're easier to store because the temperature is cooler, and blah blah blah. But dude, you can hit it with massive nuclear blast, and nothing's going to happen. And these are giant cities. There's hundreds and hundreds of like employees with cars, all parked indoors inside the ground. They don't like park in like a elevator or something. They drive in. When I say there's cities underground, I'm not exaggerating, or it's not like it's huge. And these are private companies. So when you're talking about like underground shelters, and if the shit hits the fan kind of scenario, any of these corporations of people can go there. Their leaders, I'm sure all their elite buddies, they probably have so much set up there, and it's not like for a year or 2 years, probably like indefinite time. Where if we're talking sci-fi, some of those, like, oh, there was this catastrophic thing and everyone moved underground and they've been there for the last 1,000 years. That could happen with these underground cities. It's crazy how much they have built and how much is there. And it's not like talked about like a wonder of the world or anything, but it's massive. I don't think it can happen anywhere, many other places on Earth. I don't know if like the Middle East has the structure. Yeah, Africa, I guess
Right.
it could. Europe, the land is you wouldn't. You probably could do it on the scale, you know. But it's nuts, man. You should look into it. It blew my
I
mind when I
will.
started looking at it.
Yeah. I'm sure that would be a thing. We could do a show with Public. He'd probably love that.
Yeah, but I thought that it was just weird that it was just all private companies
Hmm.
that just own these
Yeah.
cities underground.
It's
You know,
wild.
because if you're a rich guy that owns a bomb shelter, that's good. That gets talked about, and you're eccentric, and or they're
Yeah.
selling those bunkers to rich people and they're buying them up now. But
Especially if
if
it's full of
you're
cheese.
if you're just a corporation and you have a city where you could house like you know 100,000 people or something, that's nothing. Don't talk about that. That
No, how would you keep people away from it? Oh, I know. Put a nuclear reactor on top of it. That would keep people away from it.
or close the door. And that's another thing. They have like 2 or 3 entrances. They're not.
Mm,
It's like the most defendable. When you look at it. Like I said, you can watch like Stargate or some kind of thing, and there's no difference when you're watching what this underground military facility is compared to the Coca-Cola underground facility. It's the same. It's actually bigger and more impressive, I think, when you look at the company one, because it's real.
interesting. Very interesting. We'll have to check that out. I need to wrap it up. I got a little boy wanting some dinner.
UFO Endgame to disclosure, the movie just released. What do you think about the UFO stuff? You think we're about to get a?
Yeah, I heard a thing that Project Bluebeam's supposed to roll out like next week. So we'll have a
What is
big
that? What is that?
look it up. Project Bluebeam.
Well,
Search it up.
but how do you reconcile that one thing is true, but then everything else is not true? How do people do that?
What do we say in crypto? Trust but verify.
How do you
Right?
say, yeah, aliens are real? We've
Do
actually
your own
they've been coming here for a
research.
while. We've developed this rapport. These guys are nice guys. Blah blah blah. So then reptilians are real, and they're infiltrating the government. No, that's crazy. This is true. No, that's not. It's like what? It's like birds aren't real. They don't exist. Well, I have this bird here. It's real. It exists. That bird's real. But all the rest of them, it's how do you reconcile when it's like it's all or nothing? It's like being a little pregnant. You know what I mean?
It's not all or nothing. And this is where, like, I think this is where you have to, um, I think for me, it goes back to, um, is God real? Well, it's like a relationship with a friend. Only you know what that relationship is with another friend. No one else could tell me that I was friends with you. You and I know what our friendship is, you know? And I feel like that's how I know God's real, because I have a relationship with him. And so I think when you're experiencing some of these other things, like, we're looking into them, we're being educated. We also know we've been lied to about so much. So, like, keep an open mind, um, do your own research,
Mhm.
always question things,
But what I'm talking
you
about,
know?
Lisa, is like let's say someone said you're not friends with Sean. You don't know Sean, and you're like, I've known Sean for like years. We're very close,
Yeah.
and they're like, no, you don't know him. And they tell everybody she doesn't know Sean. Everyone's like, you don't know Sean. You're crazy. You conspiracy theorist. And then you're like, look at these pictures and videos of me and Sean. And then the person's like, okay, they know him, but they're not friends with him. How does that person still have any credibility if they are caught in the lie? They admit to the lie because they're gonna be like, yeah, we told you there was no aliens, but there are aliens, but just these aliens. All the other, it's
Well, I
like when
think that's what we're
people said
seeing with the banking industry right now. I think that's what's happening, is it's
exactly. People
messing
are like,
and
oh, the
it's
banking industry,
disturbing. Wait, we were told to put our money there because it was safe,
right? And now, but
and
like you
now
said it
it's the
yourself.
least
People
safe
are
thing.
taking all their when I get my deposits out, I'm going to go put them in the other bank.
Right.
How do
And now
people?
they're learning that centralized, it's another lesson. This is a journey. We're here on earth because it's a journey and we're always learning. And when you're done learning, you won't be here anymore. So I think you just have to keep asking questions. You have to keep learning. And everybody's got a different journey.
But
I
how
don't
do
know.
people reconcile that? They're like, oh, banks are terrible. This bank, they don't work. It's blah blah blah. I'm going to get my money out and go put it in this other bank. It's like,
I don't know.
dude,
Everybody's got their
it's
own.
broken. It's not like
Mhm.
this one is okay. That it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, like, a researcher or a scientist come out and say, Area 51 is real. This is here. That's here. I saw this. I saw that. Government, no, he's a liar. He's kooky. He loses all credibility. His family's screwed. He is no longer in his field. He's not
Yeah.
respected. And then they kind of, okay, it's real. But it's still the stuff he saw is not real. So it's like, how do you like, dude? He was telling us the truth the whole time. You're lying to us the whole time. Now you want us to still believe you and not him. And people are like, okay, I don't get it. I just don't get it.
At some point, personal responsibility kicks in,
Exactly.
and there's consequences for all of that. So
Yeah. Okay.
I gotta
Love you
run.
guys.
Everybody, buy this book, Fruit from a Poisonous Tree. Get educated so that you can take personal
Also,
responsibility for
crush the
yourself.
like button and make sure you
And go
subscribe. Make
watch
sure you
the
leave a
first
comment
half.
so you're registered to win yourself some crypto meme reviews coming. Second part of my interview is going to come out probably tomorrow. You can check out the first part now. Love you guys. Love you, Lisa. I will
I
see
love
you
you.
all on the meme review probably tomorrow or the next day. And check us out. I'll check me out on Thursday since Lisa's not going to be there on
I'll
Dragon
be
Change
there.
for the World Blockchain Roundtable. Let me see. Is there a video we can go out with?
I gotta go. My kid's starving.
Kids. Okay. All right. I'll just do this one. It's nice.